Muskegon's 100.9, that is the Cars and my best friend's girl. It is 8:04. Andy O and Scott Winters on your Monday. Look out there, Scott.
I know.
Little sunrise.
I like it.
You can stop whining about your seasonal defective disorder or whatever.
Just give me a little sun. A couple of minutes every day. That's all I need.
Wants. Little snow coming on Wednesday. Other than that, it's going to be just kind of a cold week here in the middle of January, and that's what it is. That's what we get in West
It's
Michigan.
January.
It's January.
Hey, we're on the uphill swing towards spring now.
Always there with the good vibes.
Got to try.
Thank you.
Got to
Mr.
get through
Positive.
this winter somehow.
So we touched on this, what was it, last week or the week before?
Last week.
Test for Time, it's called. And it is a new device invented by a local guy, Tim Smock. Is it Smock?
Smock, right.
Smock. All right, hang on a minute, Tim. That is Mike. Mike 1. All right, say Tim Smock again.
Tim Smock again?
Nope, still not.
We got
Still not working?
No, it's working.
Oh, okay.
All right, Tim Smock is here. Talk this Test for Time thing now. Tell us. Well, let's do your history. You came right here from Roosevelt Park.
Yep.
Talked a little bit about your early days.
Grew up about a block away from here. Went
Did you
to
really?
Motor Shores. Graduated in 82. After that, I was part of a gang that we went out to Muskegon Community College for a couple of years. That used to be okay to do a long time ago.
Yeah, gang activity.
Yeah. Gang activity. Out at
Everything is the statute of limitations passed on everything? Or?
it's a long time ago. I'm hoping 30 years is good enough. So after that, I ended up going to my last 2 years down at the University of Central Florida, down in Orlando, because we had a winter back then, like in 81, like last year's.
Right.
And I had the opportunity to head down there, and I was like, well, you're crazy.
Get the hell out.
Right.
What do you mean you're crazy? That's a perfect idea.
Yeah. So I ended up spending about 10 years down there. And then afterwards, just through other connections, I ended up in Chicago trading on the floor of the Chicago Board Options Exchange.
Really?
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. That was really an interesting time.
Got blood pressure pills and everything else? Or
I'm telling you.
Really?
Oh yeah, it would be crazy. I mean, there were times where it would be literally crazy. It would be in spurts, though, like when the first opened in the morning,
Right.
there'd be a half hour to an hour where it was just nuts. And then it would be kind of calmed down where you're just getting a cup of coffee, wander around a little bit, come back, and then in the afternoon, get crazy again for the end of the day.
Did you ever meet that Jordan Belfort guy?
No.
Rats. he sounded like he might have been a good time to hang around with,
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. It took a second to catch up. You know what? You know what's so funny is down in Chicago, there were three separate worlds then. There was the Chicago Mercantile Exchange.
Okay.
There was the Chicago Board of Trade.
Yep.
And then there's the Chicago Options Exchange.
Okay.
And after hearing all these different stories, I am certain that the Chicago Options Exchange, where I was the most boring place.
Was it really?
Yeah, there's no doubt. Because you hear these stories like, well, we don't do that.
Everybody's riding around on their $1 million yachts.
Right.
Yeah.
Naked women everywhere you turn. Hey, that's, I could have been a stock trader. Yeah,
There you go.
But you worked your way back home.
Yep.
As life often tends to make you do.
Yep.
And you've been working on this thing called Test for Time.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about this now. What was the inspiration behind this idea?
So I have two boys. They're 9 and 5. And this is going back about 4 years. So what was then my little guy, he was just starting the school time.
Yep.
So we had this intersection where my son Braden is coming home from school, but at the same time, he's developing this love for his Wii and Xbox.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
So as a parent, I'm trying to figure out, how do we navigate this?
Right.
So like most families with young kids, they got this struggle.
Yeah.
So I came up with a plan to try to work in both things. So I would write down on a piece of paper, I'd write down like 20 math problems. Simple. It's 4 plus 3, 5 plus 2, 6 minus 4, that kind of stuff.
Slow down. I'm trying to get...
You lost Andy at the very first
Whoa,
equation. Put your shoes back on, Andy.
Yeah. So I still have this folder about an inch tall.
Yep.
Filled with these sheets. And so what I would do is he'd answer all the questions.
Yep.
And then I'd say, okay, well, you've earned an hour of time.
Okay.
And so we did this. That was our thing.
Yep.
So he'd go, Dad, can I play? Yeah, or hold just a minute. I'd, write one out. And I was talking to a buddy of mine. I go, there's got to be a way to automate this.
Yeah.
I said, because for one, I'm tired of writing them down all the time.
Sure.
And two, what ends up happening, like any family, is you say, okay, Braden, go ahead and play for an hour. So you get busy doing something. 2 hours later,
Yeah.
he's still down there playing. He doesn't
Right,
know what
right,
he's doing.
right.
You know, he's like, hey,
Dad's not watching the clock.
Yeah.
I thought I told you 1 hour, and he's like, what did I do? You know, it's like. So I started. So I'm talking to my buddy who's the engineer, and I'm like, okay, and I want to let's change this a little bit.
Okay.
What if we make them, earn the time, and we set a timer up on the TV where it'll shut it off.
Right.
So that if he, we'll pick some number out of thin air. Say 1 minute, 1 minute per question. So he answers 20 questions.
You get 20
correctly.
minutes.
He gets 20
Right.
minutes. At the end of that time, it would just shut off.
Yeah.
So we worked with that. That was our original prototype. Did all the proper things. We filed for a patent and all that stuff. Well, the original patent completely shut off the power at the socket.
Okay.
So what we had was
A big problem because you had to reset the VCR.
yeah.
Who wants to screw around with that every day?
Well, then you kind of lost where you were in the game and stuff too, didn't it?
It would be a hard shut off. It was
Right.
it was a hard shut off for the game, for the TV, for everything that was going like
Right,
that.
right.
Yeah, computers don't typically like that type
No,
of
not
shut
so
off.
much.
They like
Not
to
so
kind of go through that sequence of powering down instead of just boop, pull the plug.
Right, but it's like as a dad, I was like, well, I don't care.
Yeah, right.
So I was thinking of it, just as this little device I was building for Braden. I knew that it, as I thought about it, it probably had some legs, but the more we thought about it, I said, that's not going to work. And as I talked to guys in the electronics industry, they explained to me to build these kind of things, to do something like that, then you've got some serious liability
Sure.
concerns, and nobody wants to pay a lawyer more
Right.
often than they have to.
Right.
So what we did was change it to the video signal.
Okay.
So what we controlled then was the video signal.
Okay.
So right now, what the Test for Time does is a device that blocks the video signal.
Yep.
Kids use the Test for Time app to answer questions, and when they hit play, after they've accumulated enough time, then they hit play, it unblocks the signal.
How about
Cool
that?
concept.
It's so
Yeah.
I mean, it's really simple, but for whatever reason, it hasn't been done. I mean, there's the parents are very familiar with like Leapfrog and VTech,
Yeah.
and these other companies. They're all these self-enclosed, environments.
Little
where
unit, yeah.
They do everything. I mean, you can make a movie, you can plug in new games, all this kind of stuff, but they don't. There's no reward outside of that other than a pat on the back and feeling good.
Right.
With the Test for Time, the kids get like a tangible reward.
Yeah.
To work at it and to keep trying harder to learn.
What age group does this thing start at? I mean, because kids in games, I think by the time they're about 5 or 6, they're starting to monkey around with them a little bit.
Yeah.
I've got a grandson that's 4, and he tries, but he's just not there yet. He doesn't really understand what to do and how it all works. But what age does this start at, and does it get progressively harder as kids get older?
So my 5-year-old uses it all the time.
Okay.
So he can sit there and I get out like a little number line, for him, or he can. The ones under 10, he counts on his fingers.
Sure.
But using the number line, he's all set up to questions that are 20, up to 20 for subtraction, 20 and below. So my goal was to set it up basically for elementary age kids from 5 years old, starting kindergarten, up through 5th or 6th grade. So it is an age-appropriate question that the kids are going to get. So the parents will be able to go in, in the settings and say, it's a first grader, second grader, third grader. So it'll go from 3 plus 2
Right.
at the front end to
Maybe a
38.
multiplication and that
so
type
at the
of thing.
back
Right.
end, it's going to be 38 times 24. And so if they have to have, I guess in my what I wanted to
Calculator
see
out.
was, so if they're calculators, they got to choose,
Right,
or
right.
I hope that they would be a piece of scratch paper that, they'd have nearby, but who knows?
You getting that multiplication? I'm thinking to myself, I might as well just throw the Wii out.
Right. You're not going to be playing much.
I ain't going to play much.
So where do you stand with this now then? I mean, are you in production with this or?
All right, so where we are at right now is I have a prototype. That's where the Kickstarter campaign came
Oh,
in.
you got one of those going on.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So the Kickstarter is a very cool way to raise money without having to give up equity.
Right.
So guys in my position, with either an idea, device, whatever, if you can find somebody who really likes the idea, they're all for it. But if they're going to pitch in, they want part of the company.
Piece of the pie at the end.
And you realize that it is a struggle to keep control of 100% of your company. And most people don't. And it's a pipe dream to think you can. So you have to go through this whole process. This process of developing products is not free. So you talk to the family members, you talk to friends, you find people that, can push it along. I'll give you for instance.
Okay.
So just going through the, not even the development of the product, just getting a patent written is, you're basically talking around 10 grand.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, patents are very expensive, and several reams of paper, I'm sure, to print all that stuff out.
The actual patent itself is, I think it's $600 or $700, but to get it done properly, you really need to find a.
Well, you have to go through all the patent searches to make sure that somebody doesn't have a similar type product, and then you've got to do all the sketches and all of that stuff.
Then you have to find an intellectual property lawyer.
Sure.
And those are, just in general terms, probably normally looking $300 an hour.
Wow.
That kind of stuff.
Wow.
I know down in Chicago that's what it was.
Yeah.
So, it's an expensive process. So for me, just because of a glutton for punishment, after 1 year, we had changed the patent from plugging into the wall thing to blocking the video signal.
So do you have to go and redo all the patents? Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, you get to do what's called a modified.
Okay.
So you kind of get it in and out for half price. So instead of the 10 grand, it was an additional
only 5.
Oh, is that all? Yeah.
Bargain pricing.
Exactly. No. So those are the kind of things that, while you're going through, this is a great idea, I'm going to talk to this engineer and that engineer, get this device built. You're not even thinking about that stuff.
No,
It's
not at all.
It's like, holy cow. And then, so going back to your original question. So for the prototype, as it stands right now, trying to raise money on the Kickstarter campaign, you pick a level that you want to try to raise. So I've picked $50,000. Now the $50,000 will get the hardware upgraded to be a production quality product.
Yep.
The software, the app that I'm using right now, it's not going to look just like that. I mean, you see the picture online, on the Test for Time website, and it looks almost like a great big flash card. Well, it'll be nicer. It's going to be nicer than that, and that costs a bunch of money.
Sure.
Too. So the $50,000 will get us to that point where we can actually have them.
When you get down to putting this thing out for retail, what are you thinking price wise for a retail product of this?
It's going to be around like $119.95, around $120.
But that's money well spent,
right?
If you ask me, especially when it comes to these kids and their damn games.
Well, the thought process is all since day one is make it around the price of two games.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk in, if you look for a new game for the new Xbox One or for the Wii U, they're $60.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's 2 games.
Yeah.
And I think that most parents are pretty comfortable, saying that's a worthwhile.
Have you tried shopping this around to some of the educational toy manufacturers and that type of thing yet, or?
Yes, but they
probably don't want to see anything until you actually have a working prototype and all that type stuff, or?
Well, let me cut you off at the first part of that sentence. They don't want to see anything.
Oh, okay.
Because they're very straightforward. Like the people at Leapfrog, they have a page on their website that says, for inventors and people with ideas, do not contact us.
Oh, nice.
Because I think they're afraid of
the liability if you send them something and then they come up with that concept.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Then it would be a nightmare for them. I can. It's frustrating from my standpoint. I can totally see it from there.
Sure.
I see that with ad agencies because sometimes in the windmills of my mind, I'll come up with something and I'll go, this would be a great ad campaign if you were to try this, this, and this. Thanks, but we don't take any outside ideas. And it's the same thing. Yeah.
Well, especially with, in a situation like Tim's got, is the fact that if you send them an idea, and I'm sure that, a company like Leapfrog, they've got developers that are working on all kinds of things. Well, at some point, you're going to have 2 minds that come up with a very similar product.
Right.
And if all of a sudden next year Leapfrog comes out with this product that looks just like the product that you sent them 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, it's going to look like they saw your product and stole it, when in the truth of the matter, maybe they never even saw your submission.
Well, they would be fighting. They would be fighting full time. They'd be
Right.
fighting, that kind of stuff, and it would be so easy from, let's say, my standpoint.
Right.
If I was able to do that, and then I would say, I'm going to see you guys for $10 million.
Right.
And they say, well, you're not going to get serious. All right, I'll take one.
Right. Right.
Right. You do that all day long.
So if you get the $50,000 Kickstarter campaign,
right,
then where does it go from there? What's the next step?
Okay, so part of the Kickstarter campaign now, for people who aren't completely familiar with it, when you go to the Kickstarter website and you look at, like, just say the Test for Time page inside, you have different levels that you can pledge money to.
Yep.
Okay, so you can pledge $10, and for $10, basically you kind of get a pat on the back, a thank you for helping the cause, and you'll get email updates as to what's going on, and all kind of thing. For $25, I've got a little Test for Time calculator.
Okay.
So they get along, with that. So it graduates, and then like at $40, there's a Test for Time T-shirt. For $100, you actually get one of the devices.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
So you can go in, you get it. I mean, it's going to be a discount to the, to what the retail price is going to be. But you actually get one of the devices. So to answer your question, we actually will, if we get our goal, because in Kickstarter it's an all or none. If I raise $49,900,
not going to cut it.
Nobody has spent a dime.
Right.
Anybody that's pledged hasn't spent a dime. But if we go over that 50, then I've got to build, those, and I've got to do those development, those development procedures and stuff to get it to people, and then I just move it along to whatever my next, the distribution phase, what that's going to look like, whether it's going to be, on store shelves or whether I'll sell it through the Test for Time website. And it'll end up being a combination of the two.
Remarkable product.
It is.
It
It's
really
very
is.
cool.
Yeah.
And locally, too.
Right.
When this thing comes down to being manufactured, you're going to keep that locally, or you're going to shop it around to...
All I've done so far, even when I was in Chicago, I was still traveling back over here working with a industrial design team out of Zealand.
Okay.
Tiger Design Studio. And then I've been working with a group out of Holland on the manufacturing. So I don't, as of right now, I don't find any reason to switch. And I always kind of thought it was neat to keep the jobs local.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's kind of changed. I mean, the mindset, I think, for a really long time, and it might still be the pervasive one, is that, well, you can just build it cheaper in China.
Right.
Well,
cheaper ain't always better.
well, and it's even quality-wise, it might even be an even trade, but picture this. So I just say I get them from over there. They come back. Say I got 5,000 of them, and they're all wrong.
Right.
And then what do? I got a boatload of paperweights.
Literal boatload. Right.
Right. So what do you do? So there's always trade-offs. That's what I've learned in this process. There's always trade-offs.
Yeah.
So maybe it does cost a teeny bit more to manufacture it here.
Yeah.
But you know what? Is that there's that massive headache of being 8,000 miles
Well,
away.
yeah, and it's so much nicer if you have a problem, you can call, and you're probably in the same time zone, and you can call and talk to somebody. Where if you're dealing with somebody in China, you've got the time zones to issue with. You've obviously got the whole language issue and translation to deal with. So yeah, it's nice to be able to take and keep all of that stuff right in your own backyard, so to speak.
And the extra bit of comfort here is that I can drive over.
Right,
Nice.
and see it.
right.
You can walk in and go, what's going on? And
I'll tell you what, man. We wish you the best of luck on this thing. Is there a website people can go visit if they want to learn a little bit more?
absolutely, www.test4time.com.
Okay.
Test for time.
We'll put that up on our website as well at muskegonradio.com as well.
Super.
We'll put the Kickstarter up there too.
Awesome. That's
we
great.
got
Thanks, Andy.
we got a lot of filthy rich listeners out there dying to spend some money. And I'll tell you what, that guy right over there, he's a real estate agent. He makes all kinds of
there
money.
you go.
Haven't sold my first house yet, so let's push it.
Tim, best of luck, man.
Thank you
for
so much.
stopping in
Thanks
and
for
talking a
having
little
me
about the
in.
Test
Thanks, guys.
for
Thanks,
Time,
Tim.
and we wish you the best on the future. Let us know how it goes.
I appreciate it. Thanks
Stay
a
in
lot.
touch. All right, Test for Time, Scott. Get that.
I'm on my way.
Sure way to keep me off video games forever. Not that smart. Here comes 38 Special. It is on Muskegon's 100.9, 822.